Welcome to Marketing Unzipped, the podcast where we take digital marketing apart and put it back together in ways that work for you. I'm Rob Curtis, and today we're tackling the topic that couldn't be more important and even more timely as we start the new year, defining clear goals for your digital marketing campaigns. It's January, let's be honest. If you haven't started planning your goals for this year, you're already running late, but let's not worry about it because we're going to start fixing that today. And some of the things I'm going to talk about today: why goal setting is the foundation of every successful campaign, the 5 steps to create clear, actionable goals that align with your business objectives, and how to ensure your team, or just yourself, can stay on track throughout the year. So let's get it. So most importantly, Simon Sinek always talks about start with why. So let's start there. Setting these clear goals really does matter. Without clear goals, even the best marketing strategy it's like a ship without a rudder. It's going to get you nowhere. And this has to be a complete non-negotiable. If you don't have clearly defined goals, you're setting yourself up to fail. It's not just about what you want to achieve. It's about knowing how to measure success and course correct when things go off track. Think about it this way. Imagine you're training for a marathon, but you haven't decided how far you want to run, how fast you want to go, or even the date of the race. Without those specifics, how do you know where you're going? How are you going to improve? How are you going to measure? How are you going to understand what you need to do? Clear goals provide that structure for you to make sure everything is more meaningful. One of the most important things is focus and prioritization. One of the biggest challenges for anybody in marketing is the sheer number of possibilities. You could do all sorts of things: social media, email, paid ads, SEO, partnerships, affiliates. The list is just endless. But when you set these clear goals, they act as a filter, helping you focus only on the tactics that you actually need to move the needle. Let's just say your goal is to increase website conversions by 20%. That narrows your focus immediately. Instead of spreading yourself thin, trying to grow Instagram followers or launching a new YouTube channel, you'll prioritize tactics like landing page optimization, A/B testing, and retargeting ads. The result: less wasted time, more impactful outcomes. One of the key pieces around this is to just really understand and lean from experience, really, of working on a campaign for your own business or within a business. It feels good. I feel like it's working, but I don't really know. I experience this a lot when I'm talking to business owners and marketing departments already, when they're looking to partner with us around how we can really help and support them. And the first question is, where are we at now? And they have a good gut feeling, but they don't really know. I appreciate my love of data in SEO, and in particular from how I first got into this industry of digital marketing. Data will bring you 80% of the way there. There will be some things in your gut that you need to follow and need to engage with, but you can learn so much just having some key information in front of you. It's really going to help you solve that problem by just setting some benchmarks so you can dip back, you can review. But for instance, if your goal is to generate 50 qualified leads a month, every lead you capture brings you closer to that target. If you don't have that benchmark, you're always going to ask that question: is this good enough? And if you're working with a team, the goals aren't just for the strategist. We walk into businesses and we'll build a strategy based on their goals and objectives, and I can put all the ideas together in that first instance. But if the team aren't engaged, the team don't want to move forward with these things or have challenges, then I'm always going to be hitting a brick wall. Once everyone understands the why behind the work, they're far more likely to stay motivated and aligned to everything we're doing. As an example, last year I worked with a team that had been running content marketing for months, but when I asked about their goal, they shrugged their shoulders and went, just to post consistently. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. Consistency is the key, and volume. I encourage it for everybody, but pointless if you don't have any goals. The consistency piece is great, but it doesn't drive results on its own. So we set some specific, simple goals. Increase blog traffic to the website in 6 months. by 25%, let's say 25% in this example. But now all of a sudden the team had a purpose. They had something they were going to communicate around. They had something they wanted to discuss. They had something to reflect upon. And now every blog post was tied to that target. And within 3 months, already seeing circa 15% lift. Just to reiterate that point, when your team or anyone you're working with, even external agencies, really understand your goal, they can all work towards it and be so much more invested in the outcome. One of the biggest challenges I've always faced is proving ROI. So if I'm reporting to our clients, or if you're in-house reporting to your stakeholders or your business owner, your manager, it's clear goals. They're your best friend. It's the closest way you're ever going to be able to answer that good old-fashioned question of what are we getting for our money? It's great that we increased social media engagement. We drove 500 new email signups through our social media strategy, but isn't it even better when you can say it contributed to X in revenue in the last quarter or the last year, the last week, whatever that truly looks like, depending on what tactics you're using. And that ability to demonstrate those clear goals allow you to connect your marketing efforts to more tangible business outcomes. Like I said earlier on, not everything can be aligned with this, because how do you truly measure brand awareness as a small local business? It's a longer term play. But as you're looking for those day-to-day, week-to-week sort of metrics, you can put those on the board and get them going. But the one thing you really must remember in this process is that vague goals just do not work. If they're vague, if they're undefined, it's not going to pay any dividends to your business. I see this all the time. I just mentioned about brand awareness as an example. And a business might say to me, we want to increase brand awareness. Okay, what does that mean? Are you aiming for social media growth, engagement? There's so many different avenues. Or my favorite, higher search engine rankings. That doesn't mean anything. You can rank for lots of things, but actually, are they relevant? Are they valuable? Are they bringing a customer into the buying journey? Are they a closed conversion type search keyword? There's so many different areas that you need to think about. And I think, sadly, the result of those vague goals, teams become disjointed, all focusing on different priorities, campaigns lack focus. It's impossible to evaluate what works and what doesn't, leaving you guessing all the time. And it's sadly a constant iteration I see when we work with different businesses of shapes and sizes. Not all, but it is a common trend, even just talking to different people that aren't sat in the marketing position, that aren't experienced, but have an interest and want to grow their business. But let me share with you a quick example about a small SaaS business. So their marketing budget was super tight, pre-funding, and they told me their goal was simply just to do better than the last year. Nice, fluffy, vague, just a tad. So once we started digging a bit deeper, we wanted to determine what was actually better for them. And funnily enough, it wasn't about customer acquisition, it was actually about customer churn. And they were losing clients faster than they were acquiring them. So we explored this. We thought about our customer's journey and why did they churn? We simply managed to put together a customer education email piece, support them in creation of video content that they create themselves with tutorials, information stuff for their app, and straight away, churn reduced drastically within 3 to 6 months. It was absolutely insane. And it just set them on the path for success. And that was the benefit of actually having a clear goal that we put together. We decided that we wanted to reduce that customer churn. We put a metric on it and we ran with it. I often get the question of where do I begin? Where do I start to kind of doing this? But clear goals aren't just a plan. They're a blueprint for your success. I heard this quote somewhere, and to this day, I can't remember where. But setting goals, it might seem straightforward, but there's a difference between setting a goal and actually setting effective goals. Number one, every marketing goal should tie directly to your overall business objectives. If you're trying to increase revenue, expand market share, or boost customer retention, your marketing goals need to serve those broader ambitions. Think of your business objectives as the North Star guiding your campaigns. We want to grow turnover from X to Y. Cool. SEO on its own entity or one marketing channel isn't going to do that. So now we need to delve in a layer. So what does that process look like? So let's just say your business goals grow revenue by 20% this year. Corresponding marketing goal to that, increase website conversions by 30% in the next 6 months to drive £100,000 in additional revenue. Now we've got a clear, concise goal and plan of how we want to achieve that goal, or to help us build the plan of how we want to achieve that goal. Some questions you can ask yourself during this process is simple things like, what is my business prioritizing this year? Revenue growth, retention, specific services, anything like that to help you start getting those sort of ideas together. But which marketing efforts can most have the direct impact on those priorities? How can I quantify the contribution of marketing to those goals? Just a quick kind of example, a B2B marketing client I work with, they want to double their client base. We basically realized that as we start to delve into the data, this works out to about generating 64 additional leads a month. And so with that in mind, we created a targeted LinkedIn campaign. We created lead magnets that kind of hit that lead generation target to really bring people in that, shown intrigue, might not be ready yet to purchase. But by doing that, we recognized that as we stood and understood the data to determine what their conversion rates were, throughout their sales process and their marketing journey, we were able to realize that actually 64 additional leads per month was the number we needed. And we smashed it. So kudos to the team. Vague goals don't work. Our goals truly do work. For those of you that don't know this from the top of your head, if it's not been drummed into you yet, but SMART stands for specific, clearly define what you're trying to achieve. A bad example of that is get more traffic. The SMART goal example of that is increase organic traffic by 20% by the end of Q2. Measurable. Include the numbers so you know when you've hit your target. Achievable. Make sure the goals are realistic. The R, relevant. You need to tie the goal back to your business objectives. We wanted to take revenue from X to Y, growth by X percentage, profit by X to process, customer retention, customer growth, whatever percentage that is. What are the tactics that I'm now employing in my processes, in my marketing processes, to help move the needle on that bigger number? That's our relevancy point in that. And last but not least, time bound. Add a deadline to create the urgency. The process of SMART goals really does ensure that you think critically about what you want to achieve and how you'll measure success. If you do anything with this, take one of your current goals and run it through that SMART filter. If it's too vague, refine it straight away. For instance, if you've set a goal to improve email engagement, reframe it as increase email open rates by 15% within 3 months by A/B testing subject lines. Done. That's now a SMART goal. Segment your goals by campaign type as well. This is a very, very important thing. Different campaigns serve different purposes, so your goal should reflect that. But we have to remember that marketing campaigns can generally fall into 3 main categories. Awareness. These campaigns are about reaching new audiences. Goals might focus on impressions, reach, or new website visitors. That consideration phase, these campaigns aim to nurture leads or educate potential customers. Goals could include engagement, downloads, webinar signups, all those sorts of pieces that demonstrate to you that the person that's engaging with this has an element of interest and where we want to go with that. And we want to take them on the next journey, kick them off the ledge to finally the conversions, the real money makers. Goals here typically focus on sales, sign-ups, or revenue. But by aligning your goals with the type of campaign, you'll know exactly what metrics to track and how to measure success. Just as a quick example, imagine you're running a product launch. Your awareness goal might be generate 100,000 impressions on this social media account in 2 weeks. Your consideration goal could be get 500 signups for a product demo, and your conversion goal might be achieve 100 sales within the first month. Nice, simple, smart goals. Again, but remember, we can have all these goals, but we need to set the benchmarks. Goals without context, it's just a guess. The benchmarks give you that context. And before setting targets, take a look at your past performance, your historical data. We know we can't predict the future entirely, but we can find trends. Seasonality is a massive play in how our business performs. We saw businesses skyrocket during those very sad, depressing COVID times, and we saw businesses sadly plummet. But then coming out of that, different reactions for different businesses and different industries. And things like that can certainly skew the data. But when we start to bring this information together over a good period of time, it helps us build those sensible, smart goals to make the right decision for us, or to help us make that decision. Year-over-year performance growth, etc., helps you determine what's realistic. Let's use a email marketing campaign. Your open rate is 18%. Let's aim for 25%. That seems achievable. But if you're currently generating 30 leads a month for your business and targeting 100 leads, might be a bit unrealistic. Unless you really, really significantly expand your budgets and your resources, it's not a realistic step. Some of the best places to find where you can get this data from: Google Analytics, even just looking at sessions views, what pages are being engaged with, through to conversions if you set it up correctly. Regardless if you're e-commerce or you're a service-based business, this is very important data to track. Use social media, look at those metrics. Don't focus too much these days on followers, but look at the engagement rates, look at the engagement metrics. Take a look at who these people are that are engaging with you. You can begin to delve into the reach, the impressions, the engagements, the amount of comments, depending on the type of content you're creating. As an example, the amount of shares, all those sorts of pieces, again, help you quantify what the next level of good looks like. And last one, and again, definitely not the least important, CRM tools. We need to track that data, those inquiries, those transactions. There's so many layers to that you could explore. But in that first instance, have a spreadsheet. If you wrote it down or typed it out on a spreadsheet, at least you've got a starting point. Figure out who they are, where they found you from, if it's in conversation. Especially for some of the more local businesses, I appreciate all these tools. They cost lots of money. Google Analytics is free. As long as you've got a website, that's kind of the main point. Social media are free platforms. It's your time and energy to create that content. But your CRM, if you're not in a position to spend, at least put a spreadsheet together. Just begin to collect some of that information. And then the more you focus on it, the more you're going to want to know. So you'll start tracking new things. And all of a sudden, one spreadsheet is an absolutely incredible CRM. Obviously, if you've got the budgets to work with it, go and invest in a good CRM. What you can also go and research is things like industry benchmarks. Just give it a Google. You'll find answers or estimations within minutes of searching. Let's think about email open rates in the retail industry. What's the average? Ask those questions, and at least then you can have a good feel on what that looks like. I'm going to reiterate, create that tracking system. What gets measured gets managed. But once you've set these metrics, you've set these goals, you need to measure them. And I've already mentioned those tools, that Google Analytics software, your CRM softwares, your social media platforms. If you're a little bit geeky, try Google Data Studio, now known as Looker Studio, or Power BI. It's great ways to be able to collect and put data together from different resources, and then schedule that time in weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly. It's what's right for you and your business or your team. Depending on where you are in scale of growth, if you're a larger business, I would be thinking about it on the sort of daily basis, because numbers are going to be moving quicker. If you're a busy, hectic business owner delivering for your customers, your services that you're providing for these customers as well, time is of the essence. So it may be a case of every month, last thing on a Friday, or I prefer first thing on a Monday, look at those metrics, get them together, get a good understanding of where you're at. That doesn't have to be just marketing across the board. One of my best things I've ever implemented was my weekly cash flow forecast, as sad as that sounds to those non-accountant spreadsheet loving people. I'm a spreadsheet lover, but it gives us a great place to be accountable to ourselves as well as business owners. I think there's such an opportunity there to really identify how you can move the needle really quickly, just on the fact that you begin to create these goals, make sure they relate to your business, and having them in a position that you can monitor them and you can track them and you can reflect on them, the lessons you've learned, what you're going to do next, all those sorts of pieces along the way. Some of the most common pitfalls I've found in this process and experienced in different projects, different websites. As I mentioned earlier on, a vague goal is as good as no goal at all. There's no point. Get precise, be smart, be concise with what you're trying to create as a goal. Stick to that SMART habit. It will set you on a very positive path. Just remember, an example being, we aim to reduce our customer acquisition costs by 15% by Q2. The more specific you are, the clearer the roadmap is for success. Don't set those unrealistic expectations. Ambition is great, but setting unachievable goals it's just a recipe for frustration at the end of the day. I've worked with teams who've set goals like double their revenue in 3 months without increasing budget, resources, or anything. And while it's important to aim high, and we always should, goals are out there so we don't demotivate ourselves, but also our team. And cause just unnecessary stress. Having those longer term plans is brilliant because these goals will help you build to that, but it's recognizing that it's a progressive approach. So go back and look at your historical data. Understand the current capacity of your business. What can be done? If your team generated 100 leads last quarter, setting a target of 150 might be a bit ambitious, might be achievable, but then setting an expectation of 1,000 leads, it's a complete waste of time. So break them into smaller, manageable milestones. Choke it down into months, weeks, days, hours, minutes to a degree. And by seeing that continual growth, that will then compound. Every little win is a motivation to achieve the next thing, right? And that easily gets forgotten. It keeps momentum high and it allows for the adjustments along the way, because no project of ours that we've worked on with clients, our own tangibles in-house, it is never just a perfect line. We have to deal and react to what's going on. And just remember, you can't ignore the process. The goals are the destination. The process is the vehicle that gets you there. A mistake I often see is when we can see we're focusing on the outcome without defining the results needed to achieve it. So for example, if your goal is to grow your email list by 10,000 subscribers, what's the plan? What are you going to do to achieve that? Lead magnets, paid ads, referral campaigns. So just remember, every one of these goals, outline that process or the tactics that will help you get there. If you want a sudden surge of influx of leads, don't go down the organic approach. Look at what budget, resource, time, energy do I need to make this happen. Every goal, we have to outline that process and tactic, and that is a really, really big needle mover. And having that detailed plan keeps your team focused and ensures everyone knows the role in achieving the goal. A key thing to remember as well is if you do have a team, don't fail in communicating the goals to the team. When a goal's stuck in your head, it doesn't help your team. There's no other value in that. And as a leader, it's easy to assume everyone is on the same page, everyone's doing the same thing. Yeah, we're all ticking away with our jobs. But if your team really don't understand the goals or how their work contributes to them, it's impossible for them to fully commit. This is a marketing exercise now, this across your entire business. We use kickoff meetings with our clients, and it's a great opportunity to understand where they're at, what their version of objectives are, what are their priorities of product, service, however that works, and what they really want to move forward in the next 12, 18, 24 months. We can start outlining those goals from those conversations, asking questions of the business to actually get the nuggets, the true nugget that will help us really define those goals. But again, even you presenting data in those sessions with those, by this point, we've ran the strategy, ran one element of our strategy exercises, which mean we have access to data. We can pose questions, we can be more inquisitive and really get the team, the business to think about the why, as we talked about earlier on. And then from there, it's about then, regardless with your team or obviously in our world with clients, but having those regular check-ins. We've talked already about being able to identify the scores and having those regular check-ins to discuss those, to see what's going on. Are we on track, off track? Where do we sit? And one thing I really found that helps is framing our goal, in terms of impact. So by increasing our email list by 10%, we'll drive X revenue based on the data we've seen in the last quarter, rather than just, we need more email signups. It's too flaky, it's too fluffy. And my one last nugget or thing to avoid would be overloading your focus. Trying to do everything at once, it just means you do nothing well, right? And we're very easy to spread ourselves thin because we're trying to be active and do all these things and be everything to everybody. But actually, unless you've got the budget and the resource to facilitate that, then you need to start thinking about what's the next sensible step. Nobody has a clue who you are. Okay, let's boost our brand awareness. We know this is going to be a longer play, but this needs to happen. Everyone knows about us, but no one's buying from us. We need to improve how people interact on our website. Can we increase the conversion rate, or not enough people are buying from us? Customers are continually leaving because of problems. Okay, how do we improve customer retention? How do we launch a new product? It's all these sorts of things that we want to avoid when we're throwing out all these different thoughts around this. And for me, one of the best fixes for that is prioritize no more than 3 to 5 core goals at any given time. So if for me, I like to bunch things in quarters, and I can have 3 to 5 key goals or core goals. Let me try that again. Core goals that allow us to identify those that will have the greatest impact on the business for now and the foreseeable. So if increasing revenue is your primary goal, focus on campaigns that drive sales rather than getting distracted by improving social media engagement, which may not directly contribute to that revenue growth. I thought I'd slide with surprise number 6 in. Failing to adjust your goals over time. To me, it's very easy to just carry on. But again, I come back to the importance of monitoring our data, monitoring our performances, monitoring the metrics, because that will help us adjust those goals over those time periods. If you haven't done this before, you need to spend the next year learning what happens seasonally. You may have some gut feels, but see what the data tells you. It can help you understand then, are we on track? Is it still aligned to our business priorities? This was a service we offered last year. We actually binned that off. Why is it even on the board still as a goal? We need to think about those sessions. I mentioned earlier on, I like to chunk things into quarterly reviews and quarterly processes. So if that works for you, run that way. If you want to run things month to month, week to week, again, you can scale this up and down, especially using the right tools to make that work for you. One of the most important things that you really need to think about is after that goal setting, the real challenge is sticking to them and even more importantly, adapting. Once you've defined those clear actionable goals, it doesn't stop there. And we need to think about how we schedule those regular progress views. What gets reviewed gets improved. It keeps your goals on track. You need to check in regularly. Wait until the end of the quarter or worse, the end of the year leaves little room for course correction. As I said, not every marketing campaign is going to work. You need to go out and test and learn some things. So your ability to have weekly, bi-weekly structure, monthly, quarterly reviews, it gives you an opportunity to take stock and dedicate that time. It doesn't have to be long, but dedicate that time to really make sure you know where you're at. Do you need to pivot? Do you need to make different decisions? How I like to do it is a monthly, bi-weekly sort of focus where we're focused on the short-term metrics. Are we hitting the email rates, open targets? How are our ads performing? So on and so forth. We then take a bigger look or a bit more of a broader assessment on that progress towards those quarterly goals. Something like, are we on pace to hit our lead generation target? So actually, all this activity in the month, what's it resulting in? Are we on track? Are we off track? What do we need to do? And then that quarterly reviews process, it gives us an opportunity to have a deeper dive. We've got plenty of data in front of us. What's working? What's not? What adjustments need to be made for the next quarter? You revisit that list, you update that list, and you run again. I mentioned earlier on tools like Looker Studio or even just a spreadsheet. Having that data into a simple platform that works for you, because it's for you, it's for your business, that you can relate to and work with to make sure it works, to make sure that you're spending the time reviewing that information. In this process as well, don't forget to celebrate the milestones. Celebrate every small win is a win. And we're so, as business owner in particular, we're so focused on the next big goal, the next thing. What's gonna take us from X to Y, those crazy, fluffy objectives that we set out at the start of the year for ourselves. But all those small little wins will add up and give you such great value. Recognize that process. Share it with your team. Celebrate the successes. If you're a solopreneur, celebrate with your friends, your partner, your parents, anybody you know. Use it as an opportunity to air that excitement. Because why not? Moving the needle on that 10% engagement on social media might not mean a thing to my mum, but I tell you what, she'll be happy that I'm happy. And that'll help me be in my motivation to keep working with it and to keep going forward. And I'm going to say this again, but that adaptability we need to consider throughout this process is so important. If a new competitor comes in the market, you're an e-commerce brand and selling trainers, and the next thing, a brand new pop-up e-commerce brand exists. Okay, they're trying to pinch market share. What do we need to do? If I'm a small local business, I'm a local plumber, and 2 new plumbers have set up shop, or a larger firm has now opened a franchise in our location. Right, what do we need to do to make sure that change comes in? So first of all, always go back to your metrics. Has it had an impact yet? Is it just something you're overthinking? Do we need to shift things like resources? So if you do have a team, okay, cool. Do we need to spend more time and energy here? Or if I've just got budget, do we need to spend more time and energy? Do we need to realign our ad spends? Maybe to Google ads rather than cold social ads, to make sure the people that are interested in our service, we are really hitting them at the front door. And if your original goal doesn't align anymore with what you need to achieve, get on and change it as quick as you can. And I had a client whose initial goal was to grow their Instagram followers. If I said 25% over 6 months, but halfway through, we realized that their email marketing list was converting far, far better than social traffic. So what do? We pivoted. We spun those resources. We spun our team's energy into the email marketing, led to a great 40% increase in revenue. That wouldn't happen if we'd just stayed as we were. And that's, again, that ability to adapt is so, so important. And don't forget to keep your team accountable in that process. I won't keep talking about those metrics, those spreadsheets, that data, but it is so important. Keep these goals visible. If you're in an office, get them on the board, get them living, get them active. But if they're out of sight, they're out of mind. And that doesn't really work for marketing goals. If you're a virtual team, make sure when every call you jump on or every team call you join, the first thing you do is we look at these. Everyone knows what's going on. Grant everybody as much access as you're comfortable to share with to these platforms, to where you're recording that data, and reference it in your conversations as well with your team. One thing I've really learned about as well in that, and going through that own process for ourselves, was it's really began to help us foster a culture of continual improvement. We've had campaigns for ourselves. They've failed miserably. Okay, what do we learn? Some others, they've gone great. The third pile of the meh pile, as I coin it, how can we learn and make those better next time? And those questions that we continually ask ourselves. And now the team ask me, and I'm really, really chuffed for that. But achieving your goals isn't just about setting them. It's about sticking with them, adapting when necessary, and celebrating those wins along the way. I can't stress that bit enough. Just before I leave you, let's recap those key takeaways. Set clear, smart goals. They need to align with your broader business objectives. Build a system to stay on track. A spreadsheet is a starting point if you've got nothing, but improve those tools and platforms you're using if you already do. Flexibility is your ally. Adjust your goals when you need to. Marketing goals are more important than just numbers on a report. They're the roadmap for your business growth. And staying on track throughout the year isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Small steps, consistent effort, and smart adjustments will take you further than you think. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe to Marketing Unzipped and leave a review. I'd also love to hear from you. So what's your number one marketing goal for this year? And what's your plan to stay on track?